Well, we will go ahead and get started with the November 26, 2024 Board of Waterworks Trustees meeting. I'll give myself just a quick second here, see if I can find my agenda, but looking at our PowerPoint agenda here, we'll start with our consent agenda, which includes the minutes from October 29, 2024 Board of Waterworks Trustee meeting, as well as the minutes from November 12th, 2024 Planning Committee meeting, our financial statements, our list of payments for October 2024, a summary of CEO approved expenditures in excess of $50,000, and our next meeting date of December 17th, 2024.
So moved.
The consent agenda.
And the second, is there anything in particular we would like to call out from that?
Nothing from me, Andrea, unless there are questions from the board.
Not hearing any, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And moving into our public comment period and an opportunity to meet the newest member of our regional team. I'll perhaps turn this over to maybe Sue to make an introduction to Jody, and
Sure.
Then from there.
Great. It's my pleasure to introduce Jody Smith. He is our chair for the Central Iowa Waterworks. Jody is on the West Des Moines Waterworks Board and has been instrumental throughout this entire 7 or 8 year process. And he is here to introduce a very important member of the new CIWW team. Jody?
Thank you, Sue. Thanks for the opportunity just to meet with you and just to brief you a few things about what's happening in CIWW since its formation officially in April and the first meeting at the end of April. We spent a lot of time for several months putting a lot of things together, policies, procedures, background information to get the group running. Kudos to Des Moines Waterworks staff, West Des Moines Waterworks staff, and Riverdale Water Utility staff for helping through all of that. And major kudos to Bill Smith, who was retained as the interim executive director through that period of time. As I said, we've got through a lot of the minutia, still some of those things to go, but we had a meeting last Wednesday where we tackled a lot of very important things. One was the transfer of assets, which you have a public hearing on tonight. Other entities are doing the same or already have done the same. The second thing is the operating contracts. I had some discussion on that, and you have that on your agenda for this evening. And the third major thing that we talked about at the last meeting was the assumption of debt, state revolving loan fund, number of roadblocks are probably not the right term, but issues that needed to be worked out amongst a number of attorneys. And they have now finished that work, but the board approved the going forward, and we have a meeting scheduled for next Friday to finalize all of those documents. And then the last thing that the board did at the last meeting that was important was the adoption of the 2025 budget, which incorporated many of the things that were involved with the 2080 document itself. So all of that's just background for the major decisions that we went through. We retained a consulting firm, recruiting firm, and went out for a national search for executive director. We had 45 applicants, brought 5 in for interviews over a 2-day period. The board was unanimous at the end of the interviews of the 5 people to work with and offer a position to Tammy Madsen, who's sitting right next to me. Tammy's a native from Texas, but circuitously ended up in the western part of North Dakota, along the border, where she has been for a number of years. the director of the Western Area Water Supply Authority of North Dakota. A smaller entity, but going through the same type of work that we are now doing here in Central Iowa. She and her family have moved already in North Pleasant Hill, in the Southeast Polk School District, if I remember. And she started work last Monday. And then she had an opportunity to meet with the West Des Moines utility that afternoon. The Urbandale utility. The next day, CIWW board had their 3 meetings Wednesday afternoon, and they were preceded by an introduction to the metro area city managers and administrators group. So we've already put her through a number of steps, and we're making the rounds to the member entities just to introduce Tammy. And I wanted to make sure that we got to first board meeting, we had the opportunity to get here to the Des Moines Waterworks. So thank you for that opportunity to introduce Tammy. If she wants to say anything, that's fine, but I wanted to at least bring her and introduce her to this very important group to the CIWW.
Just want to say, thank you all for having me, and thank you for affording me, the space that you have given me in the building here. It's been very nice to be working with all of you and all of the time that Ted and, everyone has been giving to us in our office to work towards this project together. Also Kay is here with me. She is a temporary that's working in our office, so you might be seeing some emails from her going out to all of you from our temporary email address as well. But thank you all for having me and giving me an opportunity to speak to the board today.
I want to thank you for being here. I apologize for putting Sue on the spot for making that introduction, but as I'm sure you have heard, we've been working on this momentous moment for years to bring Central Iowa Waterworks to life, and we're very excited with the decisions that will be put before us today, the decisions that have already made to get us to at this point, and have you join us in kind of leading us into that next phase of implementing our vision for Central Iowa Waterworks. So I laughed because it's been a lot of meetings. I'm sure there's a lot of faces, a lot of names, a lot of entities that you've already been in front of, and probably many more to come. So hope it sounds like it's they're really throwing you right into the mix of it all, and that's great. And I appreciate you being willing to do that, to continue to work with all of us and bring your expertise here to Central Iowa. With that, do we have anything else for the public comment period? Right. No one online? Okay. Then we will move into item 3, our action items, and starting with item 3A. Which is the public hearing on asset transfer to Central Iowa Waterworks and adoption of resolutions authorizing and ratifying transfer of assets to Central Iowa Waterworks.
Andrea, it will be a public hearing, but I think I'll just give a 1-minute background here before you open the public hearing.
Okay.
The board actually held a public hearing on transfer of assets from Des Moines Waterworks to Central Iowa Waterworks back in December of 2023 as part of the approval process for the agreement. The notice of that public hearing identified the assets that would be transferred, but did so in a fairly general way without specific and precise legal descriptions. And so the team that's been working on this process more recently felt it was in the best interest of everyone in order to remove any doubt to have another public hearing, and as part of the notification for that public hearing include more detailed, more precise legal descriptions for the assets that are going to be transferred. It was also determined in this process since 2023 that it would be appropriate to transfer a specific parcel at the fluid drive treatment plant, a parcel on which all of the facilities sit. Instead of providing access to that area by easement or some other instrument. So we wanted to make sure and have that actual transfer of that property be part of the public hearing. And I think those are the major important differences between what we did in 2023 and what we're proposing to do here. I will point out that a tentative list of all of the documents, all of the transfer related documents is attached to this board memo. And a complete listing of those transfer instruments is here, which you will get to sign every single one of. So with that as background, I think it would be appropriate for us to open the public hearing and see if there are any comments from the public.
Okay. So with that, I will open the public hearing for comments from the public regarding the proposed transfer of Des Moines Waterworks water supply facilities as described in the attached resolution.
Andrew, I will share that we have not received any comments from the public before this meeting.
Do we have any comments here in the room? Or online? Not hearing any, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and our board need to have a resolution ratifying, approving and authorizing the consummation of asset transferred per the attached resolution.
Second.
Do we want to do a roll call vote or a all in favor? Does it matter?
Why don't we do a roll call vote? Before we do that, though, I just want to point out Rick's here and John and Amy Beatty, who's not here, and a cast of many other people spent a lot of time behind the scenes. Rick, we started down this road, what seems like a lifetime ago.
Years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And it took a lot of minds and a lot of effort to get to this point, Alyssa, and your part, the last few months to get this done. And I'm sure it's a legal document like any other legal document. It's still imperfect, but it's pretty darn close to being perfect. And it's because of the work of a lot of people, some of them who are sitting here and some of them aren't, and have been behind the scenes. And I, for one, appreciate it.
Great comment.
You know, a friend of mine recently was talking about a project she was working on and how she described it, I think strikes well here. In that it seems like we've been running a marathon to get to the starting line. And this is exactly what we're doing. There's been a marathon of work to get us to this point and to take us to the next step. So I echo Graham's thanks to you and the full team that had brought us here today.
Ms. Golden,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette.
Yes.
Ms. Jessica.
She's there.
This is Diane. Did you just, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Did you call my name?
Yes,
I vote yes.
thank you. Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
thank you.
Do we need to prove?
Yeah.
Prove.
I think we can vouch.
All right, I mean, feels like we need some,
Fanfare.
yeah.
Great shape.
Well, congratulations, everyone. And we will just continue on with the work of Des Moines Waterworks and move on to our next action item. which is the adoption of resolutions approving and authorizing operating contracts and meter to cash supplement to operating contract between Des Moines Waterworks and Central Iowa Waterworks.
Andrea, a revised form of operating contract between Central Iowa and Des Moines Waterworks has been developed over the past period of time by a working group that includes legal counsel for Des Moines Waterworks and others, insurance advisors, waterworks staff, DNR, a whole host of characters have been involved in creating the revised form of operating contract. The form that was approved originally by the board has been updated a little bit since then to get to the form that we have in the document today. And the differences include changes that were deemed necessary and appropriate to reflect the plan for insurance coverage for the assets to be transferred, to cover newly identified issues and to correct errors and clarify the intent of the contract. So it's fundamentally similar to what was originally approved, but there are changes in those regards for the board's awareness. The result of all that work is the attached operating contract between Central Iowa Waterworks and Des Moines Waterworks. Each of the water producing members will have a very similar operating contract with Central Iowa Waterworks. Primary differences include that the Des Moines Waterworks operating contract includes specific provisions to our laboratory operations, which the other operating contractors will not have. And it also has a supplement covering meter to cash functions, which Des Moines Waterworks will continue to perform, which means that Des Moines Waterworks will continue to read the wholesale meters and actually send the bills to the wholesale customers and collect the money from the member agencies for remittance to Central Iowa Waterworks. Des Moines Waterworks staff has reviewed this revised form of operating contract with legal counsel. And what we're looking for here today is a resolution from the board approving and authorizing this form of operating contract, including the meter to cash supplement, an agreement between Des Moines Waterworks and Central Iowa Waterworks.
I'm looking for a motion to for a resolution approving and authorizing the operating contract and meter to cash supplement between Des Moines Waterworks and Central Iowa Waterworks.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments on this item?
Andrea, I have one comment. Graham, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to call out Amy Kaler regarding this meter to cash supplement. You know, it's funny, we read through this and like Graham was saying, there's so many people involved in these layers and hours that they put in. And the amount of time that Amy and her staff have put in on covering this meter to cash function, not to mention the billing that will go out. And we've covered all of this in our finance meetings for CIWW. But really, it's the credibility, I'm going to say, that Amy has throughout Central Iowa Waterworks that has helped get us to this point. And so when I saw that line and I was reading the board report, I thought, isn't it funny? You put one little line in there in the supplement covering meter to cash and the hours that she has spent on this to make sure it's done right. So Amy, thank you. It's definitely been a team effort.
I agree with that. And I was just gonna say that this operating, not the operating contract, but the concept of this operating concept is why Central Iowa Waterworks was able to form. When we sat back here a dozen years ago, Rick and others, I mean, there were so many stumbling blocks to getting to this point. And transferring assets was complicated. But if we were to transfer the assets today, Central Iowa Water, you could never get Central Iowa Waterworks to a point where they could operate. And this kind of long handoff, this operation, whether it's from West Des Moines or our operations, is kind of brilliant because, one of the things I'm most proud of being a member of this board is the staff at Des Moines Waterworks. I mean, you just called out Amy and her team, absolutely, and you know, our union representative and our other employees that make Waterworks what it is. You couldn't transfer that on day one. And Tammy, you'll learn. I mean, as you observe and work with the team here, and we make that, you know, even slower handoff on operations over the next 20 years, you're gonna find there's really quality workforce here. And this operating contract keeps all of the best parts of these organizations in place and makes Central Iowa Waterworks possible. So as complicated as the asset transfer was, it was this piece that made it work.
Any other thoughts or questions? Then I will, we've got a motion and a second on the table, so we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye.
I,
Any opposed? Wonderful. Moving on to item 3C, which is the Icon conditional use permit.
Andrea, the city of Des Moines is requiring Icon Water Trails to obtain a conditional use permit that will allow recreation within the flood zoning district. In an
Thanks,
area.
guys.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. Conditional use permit that will allow recreation within the flood zoning district in the area adjacent to Waterworks property. And as part of that conditional use application, they have to get owner affidavits signed by adjacent property owners. We are an adjacent property owner, as is the city of Des Moines. We've reviewed this. We've worked very closely with Icon to ensure that their project isn't going to negatively impact our use of the river or operation of our flash boards. We don't have any issue with the conditional use permit. And so we're here today requesting authorization from the board for the CEO and general manager to sign this owner affidavit to allow Icon to get their conditional use permit.
So I need a motion authorizing the CEO and general manager to sign the owner affidavit indicating Des Moines Waterworks consent to propose conditional use, allowing recreation within the flood zoning district at the Flora Drive Icon Water Trail site.
So moved.
Any questions or? I have a question. Now that we have transferred assets and part of that asset included the property that the Flora Drive is under, does CIWW now need to sign this?
No, they don't. We, as Des Moines Waterworks and this board will retain ownership of the Waterworks Park property. So we're still the owner of the adjacent property along the riverbank. And so I believe that only Des Moines Waterworks will need to sign this owner affidavit.
Which is the other kind of brilliant piece of that agreement. I mean, the Des Moines Waterworks continues to own and have its relationship with the Park Foundation to do that. And so, I mean, that was, I think, important to all of us, and,
Right.
and this has been able to work out. I mean, as Rick and the team figured out that transferring the land at the plant made more sense as opposed to holding on to that piece they severed off, but keeping the rest of the park whole and under the direction of this board was
Right.
important.
I agree with that. I think I was forgetting that there's a strip. We still own river frontage.
We still own all of the river frontage in Waterworks Park. The only piece within the park that we're transferring is something that we've dubbed the red zone, which is a kind of a smaller area. It's about half of the area inside of the levee.
Okay.
But the riverfront is still owned and controlled by this board.
It's good. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Great, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Motion carries. Moving on to item 3D, which is the proposed 2025 budget.
Andrea, the 2025 budget was presented and reviewed at both the October Finance and Audit and board meetings, so the board has had an opportunity to see the budget. That budget includes Integration for the first time with Central Iowa Waterworks based on our 28E, 28F agreement with Central Iowa Waterworks. There's a $62.1 million in the budget from an operating perspective, which is a 2.1% increase over last year's operating budget. Moines Waterworks will, in 2025, produce water for Central Iowa Waterworks under the terms of our agreement, and will be reimbursed by Central Iowa Waterworks for our efforts to produce water. Projected amount about $34.6 million. We will actually, for the first time, purchase water. We'll be purchasing water from Central Iowa Waterworks for resale to our direct retail customers. Estimated purchase price of the water is $28.9 million. In addition to all of that, capital expenditures budgeted for 2025 total just over $50 million, nearly half of which is Central Iowa Waterworks expansion projects, which of course will be reimbursed by Central Iowa Waterworks. So we've talked a lot about the budget. There's the memo, a detailed memo is attached to the board agenda item here. As I mentioned, we did review this at Finance and Audit in October and at the October board meeting. We're looking for approval from the board, but this is a public hearing. So I think at this point, it would be appropriate to open the public hearing for public comment.
So I will open that public hearing now for comments from the public regarding the budget for 2025. Do we have anyone with us here in the room that would like to speak on the budget? Do you have anyone online? Not hearing any public comments. We'll go ahead and close the hearing. And I'll ask for a motion to approve the Board of Waterworks Trustees of the City of Des Moines, Iowa resolution approving the 2025 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments? Oh,
Can I know we talked about this, but just from my memory, Amy, can you explain again, only the 9.1 million infusion, kind of why we were doing that and what the kind of alternatives and why we decided to pursue that was again?
Excuse me, the $9.1 million that's coming in is money that we've collected in past years for excess revenue. So it's surplus funds that are ready to be invested in our infrastructure. And in this budget, we had a higher level of capital than we had modeled in previous years. And so we decided to make those cash reserves work for us and invest it into the infrastructure.
And as opposed to taking on some debt or something.
That's right. That's right.
I think that's a key piece
Or
there.
deferring the investment.
Yes, deferring or taking on debt. Any other questions or comments? All in favor to approve the resolution for the 2025 budget, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Diane, did you want to vote?
Yes, I vote yes.
Thank you. Moving on, I believe that motion carries. Moving on to item 3E is the 2025 water treatment chemicals analysis of bids and authorize execution of contracts.
Andrea, this is our annual chemical bids. I will highlight for the board that total chemical costs projected for 2025 are just over $8 million for our 3 treatment plants. I also highlight that almost all of our chemicals came in with lower bids per unit, per pound, per whatever unit, gallon, ton. Almost all of them came in lower in 2025 than they did in 2024, which is a positive. Specifically, lime, for Mississippi lime, is significantly lower. And so chemical costs will actually be less in 2025, or projected to be less in 2025 than they were in 2024. Looking for a motion here from the board to award our chemical contracts for 2025.
So I need a motion to award the 2025 contracts for water treatment chemical supplies to the above bidders.
So moved.
Second,
Any questions or comments? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. That was a yes, not a no.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I moved too quick.
That's okay.
3F is an agreement between Des Moines Waterworks and AFSCME Council 61 and its affiliated local 3861.
Andrea, this is our wage reopener. I would describe it as, we're in the midst of a 5-year contract with our bargaining unit here at Des Moines Waterworks, which became effective on January 1st in 2022. So we had 3 years, a 5-year contract, but just 3 years that we had agreed to from a wage perspective in that original agreement. So we had a wage reopener this year. The union, I will say, came with what I would consider to be a fairly creative proposal this year. They proposed adding a step to the top of each of our bargaining unit positions, so that instead of 6 steps, there would be just a 7th step on top that would give all of our folks who have been here for many years and are at the top an opportunity this year to see a little bit of a bigger bump. We did negotiate back and forth a little bit, as we are we typically do. And we ultimately agreed to adding that 7th step in addition to a 2% range change for 2025, followed by a 3% range change for 2026. So I think that this was a really a positive outcome, a creative suggestion from the union, and something that ultimately we were able to support and understand. It was passed by a very wide margin when the union put it to a vote. So now we are ready to bring it here to the board to requesting permission to authorize execution of this update to the agreement.
So I need a motion to approve and authorize chairperson to execute the agreement between the Des Moines Waterworks and AFSCME Council 61 and its affiliated local 3861, effective January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
I'll just put out there that I am appreciative and happy to hear that there was an agreement and creativity going on into coming up with this this resolution and a way to move forward during this wage opener. I appreciate the union bringing this idea to us and having the ability to work through it to come to an agreement. And to know that it was passed on their end with a wide margin too.
92%, Tom, is that correct? Yeah, 92%.
I mean, the thing that's great about this, I mean, AFSCME came to the table with this idea to add the step to the top. And it's an idea that's as good for Des Moines Waterworks as it is for AFSCME members. I mean, one
Absolutely.
of our goals is to, retain a workforce. And I think by adding a step and doing things like this is something that makes people want to work here.
Mhm.
And it's a real goal of ours. And so AFSCME brought something to the table that to me was a no-brainer. I mean, it's something that is great for everybody around the organization. And I think we should be very proud of it. And I just want to repeat your gratitude to AFSCME for being creative and coming up with this idea, because it's really something pretty great.
I'll add on to that. Not only does it, be a reason why people would want to work here, but why they would want to stay
That's
here.
the main point, right?
The
Yeah.
retention to have that additional step that you can continue to grow into. It's a very good point. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, wait.
Aye.
Diane, are you in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sounds like it's passing. So thank you all for the work on this. I also recognize that this is something that takes time both from our union members and our leadership.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3G. We have the proposed 2025 schedules for the Board of Waterworks Trustees Committee meetings.
I think it's committee. We're gonna have both committee and board meetings here, but the F&A committee, as we did this year, finance and audit will be first Tuesday, planning committee meetings will be the second Tuesday. I think that's consistent throughout the year. Board meetings will be the fourth Tuesday, as normal, except for December, because of Christmas will be the third Tuesday. So we're just asking for the board's permission to adopt this schedule and publish it.
Can I have a motion to adopt the proposed 2025 schedules for the Board of Waterworks Trustees and committee meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
So we're maintaining the same committee structure for next year. Changing all, have we talked about that?
I will probably talk about that next meeting.
I was like,
Actually, the decision of the chair would make.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
That's right.
All right. Yeah, so I guess that is a good question though, because an example for this year or past 2 years, we kind of rearranged some things based on the committee members' availability. Do we want to do this before we see what committees look like?
Do this?
Yes.
Oh, schedule?
Yeah, do
That's a
this, because
question
then
for
we
the
have to
board.
make it, when we have to alter it, we can alter it.
But at least it's there.
But it's there.
To work from.
Yeah, that's what my advice would be.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? All right, well, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Moving on to 3H, the 2025 water service line repairs.
Andrea, periodically, I don't think it's each year anymore, is it, Jenny? We've been doing multi-year contracts, so the last contract would have been 3 years ago, but we requested proposals for 2025 service line repair contract. We got 2 proposals this year, and this year, Reiner's Plumbing Company was the low bidder on our water service line repairs. This is situations where a customer might have a stop box that isn't operational and we need to repair it for them, or something like that. We have a contract with a contractor who does that work for us. And Reiner's was low this year. Reiner's Plumbing has successfully completed a lot of work for Des Moines Waterworks in the past. This contract does include provisions for extension if both parties agree, but we're here today asking permission to award the water service line repair contract to Reiner's Plumbing.
We need a motion to award the 2025 water service line repairs contract to Reiner's Plumbing Company, Inc. in the amount of $337,529 and to authorize the chairperson and CEO, general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
That is a close bid.
It is a very close.
Incredibly close. It usually is not close.
And it's usually not under the engineer's estimate either. So
Yeah. They're
It's
good
all
prices. Yeah, very good prices.
Do we do like, I don't know what the official term is, like rounds of bidding at all times? I don't know, it's like bid and then you provide feedback and let them bid again.
No, we don't. We typically just bid the project and then we'll analyze the bids. We're unique in that we don't have to, we're unique in that we award bids that we believe are in the best interest of the waterworks. But I'm not aware that we've ever done any bid and then feedback and then bid again. I'm not sure that would be allowed under the
And that's what I was
public
curious,
bidding
yeah.
rules.
I think if you wanted to do that, you need to reject all bids. Although during the bidding process, if contractors have questions, I think we do answer questions and provide those answers to all bidders. So if there's scoping issues, correct?
Yeah, if we have to clarify something, we'll put an addendum out to everybody.
That makes sense. Previous consulting days and supply chain stuff. In private industry, there's a lot of good and bad shenanigans that go on, but obviously probably not
Yeah.
allowed here. But yeah, I was just curious. It thought that, I was like, I remember we used to like, you know, tell them they're high here or whatever. See if we could shave them down even lower, but.
We don't get to do that.
With that, all in favor to award the service line repairs contract, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Item 3I is the 2024 well rehabilitation.
Andrea, Des Moines Water solicited bids for routine maintenance or rehabilitation, I would call it, of 3 radial collector wells in October. This is a contract that I want to point out. We've mentioned, we've talked with the board previously about trying to be more creative, trying to reduce the workload of, you know, these annual contracts. This is a situation where we've actually bid a 3-year contract to rehabilitate 3 wells, something we do almost every year. So instead of doing it annually, Lindsay and her team did bid 3 wells this year. And it shows there we're doing well number 1 at Maffett, well number 4 at Maffett, and McMullen, Maffett, and well number 2 at Saylorville. So plans and specifications were taken out by 2 bidders, probably the 2 bidders who do this kind of work in our region. We did get bids from both of those bidders, and you can see there that the total bid package for the 3 wells, the low bid was Lane Christensen Company with a bid of just over 1.6 million. Here again, the 3 well package, the engineer's estimate was 1.8 million, so below the engineer's estimate. Lane has done a lot of work for us. They specialize in this kind of work. They've done construction for us. They've done well rehabilitation. They're well qualified to do the work. So staff would recommend that the board award the contract to Lane. And I will also point out that the memo, as the memo indicates, that all of this work was reviewed with the technical committee, Central Iowa Water Works Technical Committee, including this concept of doing a 3-year bid package and getting three wells rehab on 1 contract.
and you might mention that this comes under the category of
Joint capital projects.
the operating contract.
Right, and so obviously this would be reimbursed by Central Iowa Water Works. Yes, thank you.
So I need a motion to award the contract to Lane Christensen Company for the 2024 well rehabilitation contract in the base bid amount of $1,648,208 and authorize the chairperson and the CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
so moved.
Second,
So did I miss it? Why is there such a significant cost difference between the cost of 1 observation well between the 2?
I don't know that I can answer that question. Lindsay, do you have any idea?
No, I mean, I think they just put numbers to it. I don't know why. It's the same scope of work.
In the grants,
Basically, those observation wells, we have observation wells. That's just if they determine that one of the observation wells can't be used, and then they have to drill another one. So that's why originally we had the observation wells in the bid, but if they're not needed, we didn't want to pay for it if we didn't need it. So it's actually kind of an adder if needed.
But that's not included in this resolution then.
Right, we would just do a change, but we have the price.
Okay,
So we already have the price set, so then if we did need it, we would do a change order. Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 3J is the 2024 for water treatment plant treatment basin rechaining.
Andrea, this is another case where our engineering team has taken the opportunity to bid multiple years worth of work that we do on an annual basis. There are 4 treatment basins at the Fluid Drive treatment plant that are used as part of the treatment process every single day, specifically in this case, part of the lime softening process. There are mechanical components in those basins that are subject to pretty intense wear. And so almost annually, we are replacing the chains and flight boards and whatnot in one of the basins, either one of these 4 or one of the 2 preset basins. And this year, I think it's the first time that we've done multi-year on rechaining. We bid 3 years worth of rechaining all at the same time. And we got bids from 2 contractors. You can see the bids there. The low bid was submitted by Woodruff Construction, $691,000 in total, compared to an engineer's estimate for the 3-year project of $850,000. So, also very good bids. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Woodruff, who has done work for us in the past and done a good job, including the alternate. The alternate bid item is installation of a 4-inch water line in treatment basin number 1 to replace an existing water line that is in need of repair. And you notice again there, Andrea, the huge difference in
Yes.
alternates and why. I'm
I
not sure
did
why.
confirm with them on that alternate, they were comfortable with their alternate pricing. We're
59,000.
providing the piping, so they're just installing.
And I would also note that Des Moines Waterworks provides the materials to the contractor, the chain and the boards and whatnot. So this is just an installation price. And the price listed there for the material price for the first basin is listed there just over 111,000. Again, CIW, this is joint capital. So this will be reimbursable by Central Iowa Waterworks. Technical committee has been advised, and we are looking for permission to award this contract to Woodruff Construction.
Can I have a motion to award the contract to Woodruff Construction LLC for the 2024 floor water treatment plant treatment basin rechaining contract in the amount of $691,300 and authorize the chairperson, the CEO, and general manager to execute the contract?
So second.
Any other questions? Yes.
You know, just to comment, I mean, this has Lindsay's fingerprints all over it, just like some of the consulting contracts and other things. And I'm thinking as a vendor, how comforting that would be to know we've got business for 3 years. And I can't help but believe that brings the pricing down. And so just continuing to look at more innovative ways to do bidding and contracting and consulting work. Compliments to you, Lindsay, and your team.
When we're providing the materials, like you said, in the memo, it does list the value of the materials that we will be purchasing. That doesn't need to come to the board. Will we be purchasing all the materials for 2024 through 2026 in advance?
Not in advance. We'll purchase them each year. So there'll be 2 more purchases. And depending on exactly how much they are, if they're budgeted and they're below my spending authority, then it won't come back to the board, but it'll be in the budget for the subsequent years.
I guess my question is, knowing that we have a contractor locked into these values, and not knowing how things may change and supplies may be available and what prices may be in the next, over the course of the next 3 years, does it make any, is there any value, or are we even able to, I don't know how, with the size and storage and all it, to lock
That's the
in?
key right there. There's a real challenge with buying that much material and then storing it for 2 years, and where do you store it, and does it get damaged or lost, or do we lose track of it over a 2-year period? So I would be inclined, and I guess I will let Lindsay and maybe Nathan comment on the benefits of waiting. Generally, we would not buy that material that far in advance. It's good to get the contract with the contractor and locked in, and to Sue's point, hopefully get good pricing because they're bidding 3 of them. These materials are not hard to get. I don't expect them to become hard to get. They're pretty much commodities, it's steel chain and board. So my opinion would be they'll be readily available next year and the following year. We don't want to have to store them. So those are the reasons. I don't know, Lindsay, what you would add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, like, when we ordered the parts, we bid them through Julia and Central Stores, and we had, I think, at least 3 bids, if I remember right. And so I think, to Ted's point, it's probably not that hard to get, and then also the challenge of trying to find
Sure.
space, I think
It's a lot of material.
yeah.
Sure. And that makes
And
sense.
then you probably would want like indoor, like, you know what I
Right,
mean? We probably
right.
just don't have that.
Right, that all makes sense. I was just thinking, if we know we're doing these projects, we have the contractor in the line, do we want to get the materials on the line? But totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? On to 3K, request authorization to issue purchase order for Saylorville Water Treatment Plant ultrafiltration membranes.
Andrea, we're all aware that the Saylorville treatment plant uses both ultrafiltration and reverse osmosis membranes in the treatment process. Both types of membranes have to be replaced periodically just to maintain the effectiveness of the treatment plant. They are essentially wear parts, if you will, so they have to be replaced. Membranes for all 4 of the UF trains were replaced kind of in the 2020 to 2022 timeframe, and we're working to try to get to the point where we replace 1 of the 4 trains each year. So we're working towards that schedule. That would be most efficient and most effective for us. And so what we're proposing here is to order 1 train worth of membranes to be delivered in September of 2025 so that we can get onto that schedule. The funds for that have been allocated in our 2024 budget. There's essentially a single source for these UF membranes. You can see the pricing there for materials and freight from Hungary, where they're manufactured. And staff recommends issuing a purchase order in the amount of $694,580 for purchase of those UF membranes.
So I need a motion to authorize staff to issue a purchase order in the amount of $694,580 to Viola Water Technology Solutions.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Well, I have a question about tariffs. And if this would be an item that we believe could go up dramatically next year. I mean, as soon as you say that it's purchased for, overseas.
Yeah, I don't have any idea, honestly, whether UF membranes are on the target list for tariffs. I'm not sure how to determine that even.
But by issuing this purchase order, we are protected now, are we, for September of 25?
Yeah, I mean, you're authorizing purchase. It's like a 26 to 40 week lead time for these,
Okay,
which I didn't know. Otherwise, we probably would have ordered them sooner. And so then we want to avoid the high demand time. So then we're asking for September delivery. But yeah, I think it would lock in that contract.
It's hopefully true, and I think no one really knows
Yeah.
what
Right.
initial. I guess we're now turning to an era of policy by tweets, but initial tweets or whatever they're called, not indicated European made components as being specifically targeted. It's
Oh.
more stuff coming from Canada, Mexico and China, so, but who knows?
Did you say Canada?
Mhm. So we're protected, thank you.
All right, there's a motion on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Right, great. Any opposed? Item 3L is a not to exceed $15 million water revenue capital loan notes. Polk County Pump Station Aquifer Storage and Recovery Well Project. Resolution fixing date for a meeting on the proposition to authorize a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligations thereunder.
Andrew, I'll start by saying that the action here today is to set the date of a public hearing. This is we will be funding this project through SRF, and so there's a lot of very specific language that's required, and that's why this is presented a little differently than our normal public hearing language, but as the board is well aware, it is our intention to construct an ASR well that will be a Des Moines Waterworks asset, will remain a Des Moines Waterworks asset, and will help us with our peaking under the new Central Iowa Waterworks rate structure that incents storage of this kind in terms of how the rate structure is set up. The Polk County Pumping Station ASR is being bid in two bid packages. The first bid package was the well, and that bid package has already been awarded. And although the contractor is not yet drilling the well, they've been on site and done some site work, and they're under contract with us. We're gonna bid, we bid, we're not going to, we did bid the second package, the pump house and controls. And we're proposing to award that tonight. But as I think the board is aware, the Iowa DNR has indicated that they are delaying issuance of water use permits for a couple of ASR wells that are under construction here in the metro until they complete a study that they are doing of the Jordan Aquifer. They're hoping to have that study done here right after the first of the year. In terms of scheduling this public hearing for the issuance of debt for construction of this ASR well, we don't believe that there's any risk, if you will, associated with setting the public hearing. It doesn't tie us to borrowing the money or moving forward with the project, but it will help keep us on schedule, assuming that we do get the modeling report from DNR and we get our water use permit. So we're gonna recommend that the board go ahead and set the date for the public hearing. And then another month, we'll give a lot more clarity to where we're going with this permitting question from the DNR. So I think I will leave it at that, unless the board has questions about that specific situation.
We need to get a motion first. Can I have a motion and roll call, well, eventually a roll call vote to adopt the resolution and fixing date for a meeting on the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of not to exceed 15 million water revenue capital loan notes of the city of Des Moines, state of Iowa, and providing for publication of notice thereof.
So moved.
Second.
I would make one suggestion to that motion, that it affirmatively state that the hearing will be the date and time of the December board meeting. The time is blank in the draft resolution attached, and I believe that would be the intent, would be to have it at December board meeting.
Diane, are you all right with that?
Yes, I accept the change.
So do I.
My question just to wrap my head around this, we're asking the state to issue us a loan. That if the state then does not provide us that permit, puts us in a pinch with the state for the loan.
I think that we will know whether we're gonna have the permit before we actually ask for the loan. But I will point out that we have already awarded
Right.
a contract to drill the well, which is half of this money, portion of this money. So we're gonna be in a lot of binds if we don't get that permit. But I
Right.
think I think we'll get the.
And I just, I don't know if irony is the right word for it, but that, we're. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
So there are 3 steps. You set the date of the public hearing, you hold the public hearing, and then you take the action. And those are done in 3 separate meetings. So even if we held the public hearing next month and something happened that we didn't get the water use permit, we're still not on the hook. It's only when you pass the resolution to issue the water revenue notes that it would be a problem, and I don't think they would let us get there.
But we would owe the money regardless.
We have a planning and design loan and it, right now for the first phase, BP1, right, bid package 1.
Would
So
we-
we have spent money on this project.
But we have a grant, or we have funding to cover what we have spent so far,
Well, we have planning and design loan,
loan.
but we
We'd
haven't
have to
done
pay
a
that back.
construction loan for
That's
bid
correct.
package 1 yet. Which this would
This
cover.
would cover both.
But since we have awarded that bid, they will start incurring costs prior to us submitting for this loan.
Well, if we stay on this timeline, we probably won't incur very much cost before, because, they're not gonna move onto site to drill the well until after the first of the year.
Yeah.
And we would be, they would have to work for a month or more before they submit their pay request, and so. We were gonna authorize this in January, is probably the schedule we're on right now. And so the timing aligns, I think. For what we have going now and what we're doing here. For the construction that we have going now and what we're doing here, I think the timing aligns well. It's just if we end up not getting the permit, then. And I think there's a very small risk of that.
If they don't give us the permit though, will the state? Will they talk to each other and not give us a loan, but we may have cost incurred?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
We would not issue the notes without having the water use permit.
But we will have started, but. If the, so we'll have the public hearing in November and then we pass the resolution at the end of January. And the well drilling folks start after the 1st of January. There's a month of work that could be done before we ask for the loan. And we could possibly have heard at some point in there that we're not getting a permit, but they've done work. And the state could realize that we're not getting a permit and they don't grant us a loan because we can't do the work, and then that money that has incurred, we'll have to find elsewhere.
I think the first month or few days of work. I mean, if they say, hey, we're just not gonna give you a permit for this well at all, which I think is highly unlikely. But if that's what they say, and I think we'll have to stop the construction.
Mhm.
And we'll have some cost there. We're not gonna get this loan, we will not apply for the loan if we're not gonna drill the well. So we will have to find a way to pay that 1 month's worth of cost. And I'm not worried about that. I mean, it's not gonna be millions of dollars. We'll figure that out. It will be inconvenient, but we'll figure out how to do that. I still, I think that they are gonna give us a permit. They're gonna do the modeling and they may qualify the permit in some way. Hopefully it still is a valuable facility that we want and we'll move ahead with it. But I'm gonna just tell you, I don't have all the answers right now, because this is sort of an unprecedented situation where we're this far down the path, and then they feel the need to hold the last permit and a whole series of permits that we get until they do some additional modeling. So we're in a little bit of uncharted territory. I think the best plan for us is to continue to move down the path as if we're gonna get the permit. And with the understanding that if we just do not get the permit, there's gonna be a cost that we will suffer. And, you know, that's kind of the price of trying to plan and stay ahead. If we don't do this and we don't award the contract in the next item, it's gonna set us back by months, and we might lose our window for the well driller. They may, well, if we can't come here, then we're gonna leave and we'll be back a year from now. We're gonna have to rebid the project. I think that there's more cost to that approach than there is in continuing to stay on track and then having to stop, you know, at the end of January and incur costs for stopping.
So the other thing to point out is we've been issued a construction permit by DNR already, so.
For the
work-
well.
For the well, so we've been permitted to do the work. Whether we can use the work is the
the
question
question.
that's up in
Right.
the
Yeah.
air right now.
How about the building, Lindsay? Have we gotten that?
They're
permit?
just wrapping that up.
So we're expecting to get a construction permit from the DNR to build the building.
Isn't that crazy?
I
And
think
then-
this is the right decision to do what we're doing here, what's been proposed. I think the other thing, and I have questioned parts of this, follow this, but I mean, this is a potentially kind of a canary in the coal mine moment, right? I mean, DNR,
Yes.
and it's political statement, this is my opinion, but or DNR is a little late to the game here. I think they're beginning to look at something that is long overdue. And study the aquifer and do some of these things. And some of the findings, not of this initial study, because I think it's far too short, but as they initiate other studies, those findings may be surprising and not entirely good about the availability of water in Iowa. And this is a bigger moment, which leads me to my question, and that is, I realize that this potential asset that we're investing in is a Des Moines Waterworks asset and not a Central Iowa Waterworks asset.
Correct.
However, West Des Moines is in a similar situation, I believe.
Yeah,
And have we been sharing this information with Central Iowa Waterworks for the very reason that I do think there's a larger thing at play here, and that future permits for whether they're ASRs or other things we do, the game may be changing, and are we communicating with them, or will we be?
yeah, I'm gonna confirm with Kyle, but
We've had some brief discussions about the permitting. We haven't gone into great depths on the permitting. We certainly can do that. Urbandale is also looking at the ASR well. And we've had some additional discussions with the technical committee, but more detailed discussions with Urbandale and.
So what's,
And I would just say, Sue and Diane, I think about the appropriate way to bring this up to the
Yeah.
board. Again, it's nothing they have to make a decision on, but I do think there's information here that as they start planning for the future, they are planning for the future right now. They need to be aware of these things, that the rules of the game may be changing. Sorry.
you're fine. So West Des Moines has a permit in process right now that they're waiting to get reviewed. They're in the middle of actually building or drilling, as I think you've shared.
Right.
Has Urbandale submitted their,
They may have started submitting.
They
when
submitted-
heard,
they
but
submitted their
They're
letters.
farther along on they really haven't gotten too far on the design process, but I think when they heard some of the issues, they submitted their permit.
and who else has a permit pending?
I think not ASR, but I think there's other communities that are Jordan recovery well or Jordan
production wells,
production wells.
Altoona.
Well, that's the interesting one, right? I mean, Altoona is not a participant in Central Iowa Waterworks.
Right.
And some of us pushed them to consider being a Central Iowa Waterworks for the very point that they may not be able to get permits for wells.
Right.
And if they don't get permits for wells, there's gonna be a serious impact, because they're gonna be coming to Central Iowa Waterworks and wanting to get in.
And they can
And they can, but I mean, it's gonna
But
cost
it's-
them, and it's,
it's
you know, it's just,
be significantly.
and again,
more.
so that's just why
Right.
I think we need to be sharing this information with Central Iowa Waterworks, because I think this is there's a red flag waiting here.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think, from an ASR perspective, we even have put limitations in the Central Iowa Waterworks 28E agreement to limit how many we can have for other reasons. So
Right.
there's a limit, and we're approaching that limit.
Limit we or Central Iowa Waterworks or individual communities?
I'm sorry, Andrea, I don't understand your question.
Like, when you say we put a limit in there as how many ASR wells we can have, is that we
Collective.
Well,
collective or?
Members of Central Iowa Water.
Yeah.
And members of Central Iowa Water Works, collective basis and as an individual.
right,
Okay, so Central Iowa Waterworks has told us through this agreement that we're only allowed to have X amount of ASR wells.
it's a little different than that, but yes, you can only have this amount of ASR capacity compared to your average day is what it says, and the total number in the system can only total this amount of the whole system's average day. We recognize that we've got to have capacity to build these things if we're gonna build them. And
Ted,
yes,
this Diane, isn't it an operational limitation on how many we can have throughout the region,
yes,
regardless of who owns them?
yes, it is. And so, it's kind of, to Graham's point, there's gonna be a limit, but we've already put a limit. So I think our limit, is gonna align with what DNR is thinking. But even beyond that, I think that there needs to be consideration about, just overall water availability, and we're studying that too. Whether it's rivers or streams or, ASR wells or whatever it is.
So to your point, Graham, about bringing this to Central Iowa Waterworks, Diana's on the executive committee, but I would also say we have Tammy right here housed out of Des Moines Waterworks. And I would hope that some of you could make sure that she's brought up to speed to know exactly what's going on in this regard. So I don't know who's gonna play point person on that, but I think that's one way to make sure that everybody at Central Iowa is well aware of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, we can
And-
certainly have a conversation with her about that.
And am I correct that item M is tied to this overall same contract
Well,
or same
um,
project?
yeah. Item M is bid package 2, this. $15 million is intended to cover both bid package 1, which is the well, and bid package 2, which is the well pump and control building.
Mhm.
So you're absolutely right, Sue. It's the same thing. And we're not, when we get into that, we'll talk in more
Good.
detail, or we can. But we're recommending that we award that contract, but Lindsay has been able to negotiate with the contractor.
Right.
An addendum to the contract that allows us to cancel the contract at any time. With only the liability for costs that's already been incurred. So no penalties or damages. And our feeling is that there's gonna be very limited cost incurred by the time we know whether we're gonna have a permit or not. So
Okay, good.
we kind of orchestrated this all together. We're trying to just keep it on track so that we don't lose the momentum that we have and delay the project for a year. But it's not without risk of some amount of cost
Mhm.
for, ASR well and planning that we won't end up being able to use. I think that risk is somewhat limited.
I didn't mean to jump ahead to the next
Oh.
one, but I know who
Yeah,
it's gonna.
they're connected.
Okay.
They're absolutely connected.
Okay, sorry. Any other questions or comments? I guess also realizing that this is a motion to set a meeting date. For this loan request. Any other questions or comments? Great. We have a motion on the table that has been amended to include the November trustees meeting date and
There's December. Yeah.
December meeting date and time as the time of the public hearing. All in favor, say, we need a roll call vote. Sorry, thank you.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dorr,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Mones,
Yes.
thank you.
Right, on to item 3M, the 2024 PCPS Aquifer Storage and Recovery Well Bid Package 2, Well Pump and Control Building.
Andrea, as we referred to recently, this is related to the previous item. This is an award that we actually brought to the board in November, but we delayed it because of this question about the water use permit. We really don't have any additional information about whether we will receive our water use permit or not. But we have been able to negotiate with the contractor this provision that I just mentioned, where we can cancel the contract at any time without any sort of penalty, only liability for what's already been spent. And we're thinking that in the early weeks or months of this project, here after the first of the year, the expenses will be somewhat limited. So we did have, as you'll recall, last month we had 4 bidders. We got good bids on this project. The low bid was by Hinkle Construction, $5.2 million. Engineer's estimate is $5.9 million. Hinkle has constructed a number of projects for us in the past. We've had good luck with them, and so we are recommending that the board award this contract to Hinkle. But this is a public hearing, so Andrea, I'll let you.
Sure. On that, I will open the public hearing for comments from the public regarding the form of contract, plans and specifications and estimated cost.
And I will share, Andrea, that we haven't received any comments prior to the meeting.
Any comments here or online? All right, and finding that no facility of the kind to be constructed is available for rent or sharing from another agency, is that correct?
Andrea, that this section 2080 finding is attached from Lindsay.
Do I don't close it until we're all
Yeah.
done, right?
No, close the public
Okay.
hearing and then a motion on the.
Okay,
form of-
then I will go ahead and close the public hearing and take a motion for adoption of form of contract, plans and specifications and estimated cost.
So moved.
Second.
Have we,
Take a big
okay. I'm sorry, this whole aquifer thing's got me all
Yeah.
riled up and I'm, okay, sorry. Getting back, my head back into it. We have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, do we have an analysis of the bids received?
I think I did that out of order, Andrea, but.
So this is your fault.
Yes, it is my fault. Yeah, as is everything.
All
But
right.
if the board has questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Not hearing any, then, we will, ask for another motion to award the 2024 PCPS Aquifer Storage and Recovery ASR Well Bid Package 2, BP2, Well Pump and Control Building Project to Hinkle Construction in the amount of $5,216,000 and authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or comments?
Just, I'm really pleased to hear that there's been this supplemental addition to the contract. Do you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, we just reached out to Henkel, to talk to them about, what our options were and kind of. This is a standard that is in a lot of contracts though, about like if the owner cancels a contract for cause. And so they, one of the suggestions maybe will be that we try to get that language in our standard contract.
Good.
That's great.
That's something we'll follow up on.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Um,
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. We'll be all interested to hear how things progress with the DNR and everything else into the future.
Keep you posted.
Item 3N, request authorization for CEO and general manager to execute agreement for professional services for 2025 floor water treatment plant flood improvements.
Andrea, earlier in the year, we had Bar Engineering Company complete a feasibility assessment for the Fluor Drive treatment plant levee system. Just kind of looking at our levees to determine if they were adequate. The city of Des Moines has been doing a lot of this around us, and so we thought it was appropriate to do the same thing at the same time so that we keep our levees in good condition and ensure that they're protected. The study identified some potential deficiencies and some potential remedies that we might want to consider. We've taken a look at that and we've identified 4 projects that we want to move forward. And they're specifically listed there in the memo. Given the fact that Bar did the original study and that they specialize in this type of work, we want to use our indefinite scope master agreement process to have Bar complete the design for these 4 projects. Bar Engineering has done a lot of this kind of work for us in the past. They're very skilled at this kind of hydraulic modeling, levee work, that kind of thing. Initial estimate for the actual construction of the improvements is about $2 million. The anticipated cost of the design by Bar Engineering, which is what we're requesting permission to authorize today, is $315,200. This would be a joint capital project because it's the levee protecting the treatment plant. So the Central Iowa Waterworks Technical Committee has been briefed and they're aware that we're planning to move forward. So we're looking for authorization from the board for me to execute a professional services agreement with Bar to do the design of these flood improvements.
Can I have a motion then to authorize the CEO and general manager to accept the professional service agreement with Bar Engineering Co. in the amount of $315,200 for the 2025 floor water treatment plant flood improvements?
So
Second.
Questions or comments? Not hearing any, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Oh. Diane? Are you in favor?
Oh, yeah, I thought I said aye.
Oh, maybe you did.
I'm getting nervous about spending all this money, so.
Any opposed? All right, moving into our information items portion of the evening. Board committee reports. First up, we have the Finance and Audit Committee.
We did not have a meeting since the last board meeting, since the team was working hard to get the budget for the year wrapped up, so nothing to report.
Great. Planning Committee?
We did have a meeting. It was excellent. It was an update. Remember when we had a meeting at the Botanical Garden and we heard all about the new building that they were going to be working on? It was a terrific presentation about where they are and what they're doing. They've looked at so many options, and I think you probably all saw the report. You know, which way the vehicles would come in, where the storage would be. But the thing that I made mention of to the group, and Graham had some great comments for them also. You know, they're going to expand their training ability, the training area that they're going to have with this new building. And a lot of this is because of the concrete and the structure, and, you know, it's just kind of aged over time. There were more technical terms than that, but it's really needed. And when we talk about safety, which I know has been a priority for this board, to be able to have that additional space for training. It just really sounds like they've done a great job, comprehensive in looking at what they need. So, Graham, do you have anything you want to add to that meeting?
no, I don't.
But please review the packet, and there were several options. I want to say it was like C1+4 or something. And I encouraged them. I said, this board understands how important it is to have space to do the training that we need for safety. So if you do think that plus option is the way to go, let us know. And I think you're discussing it. So anyway, it's very good. Great presentation.
Thank you. Our board membership reports, Central Iowa Waterworks Board. Diane or Sue, I guess we also kind of got an update on that a little bit at the beginning of our meeting. Anything additional to share?
I don't have anything. That I think the highlights, we have highlights in the packet. And I think the thing that you need to know is that we are on schedule for the operational date, which is really pretty amazing.
Agreed. Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden.
I don't have anything to report. If you're looking for an event, the Dome for the Holidays is really great. Have you gone, Sue?
I have not, but we have an event coming up. So
It's
yeah.
really pretty spectacular. So
The
I try to
images are
fit it in your-
great.
Fit it in your holiday schedule.
The what's great?
The images that they're
Yeah,
putting out.
it's just beautiful.
Has the new vendor, the new restaurant?
I don't believe the new restaurant is open yet. It will be soon. I think in December it will be open, and that will be good. And I think one of the things that they're hoping to add are evening hours for that restaurant. Which I think
Nice.
would be fun.
And then Des Moines Waterworks Park Foundation. I can speak to that. As we kind of close out this year, it was a successful year kind of implementing the business model with concerts. I believe that we are still trying to balance finances that we're expecting to come in. But the idea that we're going to be in the black this year is
Good.
out there. I don't want to jinx anything.
Great.
But it was a good year. We, as you all know, we have our executive director that's up and running. They've been reviewing the executive committee and that structure to provide a little bit more sustainability with board chairs and how to give consistent leadership to get some things done. Kind of looking at the speaking of leadership, how we will navigate with our new executive director now and the use of consultants and how to best position ourselves financially and still accomplishing and having the capacity to do all the things that need to get done. I don't see Pat on. And I always like that he keeps me in check to make sure I didn't forget anything.
Pat's having a grandbaby right now.
Oh, that's exciting. I guess is there anything, Amy, that you?
I wasn't at the last board meeting, so I think you've covered it well, based on my understanding of the discussion.
All right. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay.
Andrea,
Yes.
can we go back to the Central Iowa Waterworks? Now that
Yes.
I have my head back on here, I did want to point out that we had a workshop where we went over the HDR study, and that study goes out, I think, to 2050 and talks about the needs and the new water treatment plant options that we have. It's a very lengthy report, but and we didn't have time. We just had time at our workshop to kind of go through the report. We are putting together, we're all supposed to be putting together our questions about the report. It makes a recommendation for a new western plant in the future. The thing that struck me about the report were a couple of things that I want to get into in greater detail. And that is, you know, when we look at our water sources, we've got the Des Moines River, the Raccoon River, and then, you know, the aquifer, they're all constrained. I think there's some question when you look at it about the availability of water into the future, about where we're going to put these plants. To me, this is a supply side recommendation, meaning build additional water treatment plants. There's nothing in there about demand side management. I think that that's something that we need to look at, but I had a number of questions and we will continue to look at that. There's a summary of the report. If anyone on this board is interested in looking further into what the recommendation from the study is. So I wanted to spend a little bit more time on that because it's really important. Looking at the future as to decisions that are made with respect to that.
And Diane, just to add on to that, so many of the concerns that this board has had are being brought out by many of the members of Central Iowa Waterworks. For instance, you know, there is a buffer, 15% buffer that we are baking into what we'll have for future needs, as well as all of the irrigation. And, you know, we hear many of the suburban leaders and other leaders saying, you know, is this really the right thing to do, to build this huge new plant so that people can water their lawns? And do we want to look at some more environmentally friendly things that we should be doing? So the timing, back to kind of what Graham said at the very beginning, our timing is so great for this, because if we did not have all of those members at the table with us, they'd just keep saying, send us the water, but now they feel the pain. And it's really great right, Amy? Now they understand why we've been saying the things that we have. And so it's very comforting to have everybody at the table.
Has there been any, you know, especially along the lines of irrigation, have there been any conversations or have there been any conversations about the WRA and bringing them to the table, and how there might be some sort of collaboration on that side of things?
Maybe at the technical committee, not directly. I mean, we've been covering such detailed things on 2080 that has not formally come to us. As far as the WRA.
I think we're gonna need to shift our focus there. So far, it's just been on getting this thing up and running and operational. At
And
least
talking about locations for new plants and
right.
things like that, it would, not being an engineer, but it would seem to make sense that you would want to kind of align that and look at where you might be able to collaborate with other water industry folks and do what you can to use the resource more conservatively and alleviate pressure and burden on the drinking water for irrigation.
Yeah. We will get there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think those are, again, discussions that need to be had. It was just a matter of first things first, and we've just been really so busy getting up and moving, but that certainly needs to be a focus. Maybe Kyle can talk to what discussions have been in the technical committee, but this with the HDR study is the first thing that's come to the board on decisions that we're gonna have to make pretty soon on starting, getting things in motion for the next treatment plan.
And this report did focus on each member had to provide data to approve of how much water demand they wanted. So they did the projections based on population and how much usage they have. Now, water management probably wasn't a big focus from the technical committee, but I think part of the output of this report is you're gonna see the financial costs and burdens of these expansions, which may then circle back around to the water management side of things or rate structures. To adjusting the rates so that those that irrigate are paying more of a premium to balance that out. So I think it's gonna come back around a little bit, but at the beginning, that was not discussed or not, each member agency is provided with their projections for the
Now, I can appreciate that the financial implications of more water and cleaning more water will have an impact on communities' usage and demand. But if we could ensure that conversations around not just the financial stick, that we're also implementing or looking at other ways we can do water conservation as backup. Or vice versa, maybe that's what we should lead with and then have the financial burden as backup. To just make sure that we're positioning ourselves in the best possible way moving forward into what we don't know what things will look like as we continue. Okay. Anything else? All right, Ted?
Couple of things, Andrea, from me, during the first half of November, we sent out 55,000 letters to our customers who have water service lines of unknown material. Jenny worked hard with our contractor to get us to that point. We've had, I would say, tremendous response to the letters, a lot of feedback from the customers.
Ted, I didn't look, I gotta ask this question this afternoon, I meant to look. If somebody misplaced their letter, probably threw it away, can they go online and find that information? Is it on the webpage of how to evaluate your service line?
It is, there's a link there that you can get to the survey. The survey is best completed on a mobile phone, frankly, so if they go to the website on their phone, we talked a little bit about trying to get that QR code on the website. I don't know that that's there yet. A link.
Okay, well, that's good. I didn't look at that today, so.
Yeah, it's out there. I did want to share that we have had, we set up a specific voicemail, a specific email. We've made test kits available to folks who want to have their water tested. We've had over 1,500 voicemails. That is a lot of voicemails. We're working through those, trying to get all those.
What's up? Percentage of letters sent versus what we've called.
Well, there are 55,000 letters, and so 1,500 voicemails. We've returned about half of those calls so far. We've had almost 400 emails from customers. We've had 300 test kits picked up for folks to test their water. We've had a handful of handwritten letters. I got one addressed to me today. Handwritten letter, very detailed, exactly when they replaced their service line and how long they've lived there, and a legal description of their lot. It was very good information. And to date, I think 2,600 of folks have completed the online survey. So making progress. There's a lot of work to do there. A lot of effort will go into the next few weeks, certainly, and then over the next year, we'll continue to do our assessments with Blue Conduit, trying to get that number of unknowns down, so that we will be able to start replacing lead service lines, and we'll know where they're at, so. A lot of work going on there, I know that I think Jenny gets to go to River Woods tonight and do a neighborhood association meeting. I went to one a couple of weeks ago, so there's a lot of interest. And we're getting a lot of attention to lead service line replacement here in Des Moines. I would also note that we signed an agreement with DMAC in our never-ending quest to promote the quality of tap water in Des Moines. We signed an agreement with them to allow us to brand their bottle filling stations at Urban Campus. So if you were at the Iowa State Fair and saw the branding that we did on some of the bottle filling stations there, we're doing the same thing at DMAC's Urban Campus. Trying to promote in that community the quality of the tap water here in Des Moines. And then lastly, for me, I would direct the board's attention to this month's safety update. Couple things there of interest. One, we're trying to collect 200 leading indicators. That means that folks have done site inspections or turned in near misses or just done things ahead of what could be an injury or an accident. We're at 162 thus far, so we've got some work to do, but we're making good progress, steady progress. People are talking about safety and working on safety. The other thing I want to point out is that we did a couple of department-specific trainings and distribution. This is something that's really important, we feel, to bring not just general training to our employees, but very specific training. They did a couple here in the last month in distribution. One was for CDL drivers and vehicle pre-trip inspections, cargo securing on trucks. They talked about it and then they went out and did it in the field. You know, they actually looked at the truck and they walked around the truck and they did it, you know, for real. And they had an officer from the Iowa State Patrol come and do that. And that can be really impactful when you get someone who's perceived as an expert to come and help with that training. The second was on tapping water mains. We've had some issues recently with tapping water mains. And we had a representative from Mueller who manufactures tapping machines come and actually do some hands-on training with that group. So good stuff going on there. In our effort to enhance our training and ensure everybody has the training they need to do their job safely. So Andrea, I think I'll stop there unless there are questions.
Ed,
Yes.
again, back to what Andrea said at the beginning about our staff and how outstanding they are. You know, we're running into people just like Graham said that he talked to someone today and they had a question about the letter. Thank you, Laura and Amy and others that I have forwarded questions to. Laura, I heard you are the sweetest person from the lady that you talked to from Hy-Vee. So it makes you so proud when you hear that people have followed up and that you're really listening to them. So thank you.
Good work.
Any other comments or questions? All right,
Motion to adjourn.
yes. Second.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Yes.
But